between Mono Red and Azorius Control. Seth Manfield versus Paulo, Vitor, Damo da Rosa, the upper semifinals. Both of these players are fighting for a spot in the upper finals. So you want to win this. It takes off a bunch of pressure. Both players want this W.
I think of these two players, I've known them both for such a long time during my professional Magic career. And Seth, someone who's younger than me, but I used to do a lot of drafting against, and I can never beat the guy to save my life. Couldn't figure out why he always beat me. It turns out he was just better than me. Same can be said for Paulo, of course. I mean, these two players have accomplished just about everything. You think of Seth, you think of a Pro Tour champion, a Magic Hall of Famer, a former world champion. The accolades are so many, and you can say the same thing for Paulo, a two-time Pro Tour champion, but there's one thing on his resume he does not have that Seth does. That's World Championship.
You can bet your biscuits that both these players are incredibly hungry to get this World Championship title under their belt. Seth to become a two-time World Champion, joining Shahar Shinhar as a double winner, and PVD wants his first one. So all to play for here. Taking a look at our opening hands, Banishing Light to Fairy and Elspeth Conquers Death in hand for Paulo, and a pretty nice, it's a bit of a slow hand there for Seth. This concerns me a little bit.
So both players, are taking a long look at their hand here. Paulo's hand is not particularly good, even though he does get to go first. His first piece of interaction is on turn 2. Now, Temples can smooth things out a little bit, but you also see that copy of Castle Ardenvale that would be entering the battlefield tapped. So you've got 3 lands currently that would enter the battlefield tapped, not ideal for curving out. As far as Seth is concerned, he wants to get the game started on turn 1 to have a turn 2 light at the stage. Now, Onyx is a fantastic card in the matchup. It gives you protection against Shatter the Sky, but you got to have other stuff on the battlefield leading into that card. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Seth send this one back, but it looks like he's actually going to keep that as a surprise to me as we're underway here in this first game.
Mountain off the top here for Seth Manfield. He's going to get things going. No one drop, unfortunately, off the draw. Temple of Enlightenment will be the play for PVDDR. Finds an Omen of the Sea off the top. That's going to get sent to the back, too. He's looking for something. What's he digging for here?
Well, I think he's just kind of looking for land number 4 right now because he's got plays on turn number 3. So there is land number 4. He can just play Teferi now on an empty battlefield. And I'll tell you what, if I was talking to Paulo right now, I'd go, hey, man, did you expect on turn 3 to play Teferi on an empty battlefield? His answer would be definitely not.
Hell no. You'd expect to see some critters at least for the mono-red player, but it looks like we will get to see something now. Either Annex or Light of the Stage, but yeah, let's get Annex down. He's got 2 copies of it, and he's got an Ember Cleave ready to rock and roll.
And so here's your problem right now as you take a look at this game continuing to unfold. Teferi is generally a card that you play it, you bounce something, and then it dies. Now Paulo's got the opportunity to play his Teferi, plus it to 5, minus it to 2, bounce an Annex, pass the turn back.
So much stuff.
Now, if Seth plays an Annex or a Torbrand, Elspeth Conquers Death, kills that. And now it's Paulo doing the best thing on every single turn. And if you've watched Paulo's matches previously when we commentated them, the one thing I've said is that if you're Azorius Control and you get to dictate the terms of engagement, which Paulo is doing right now, it is so hard to lose.
Yep, so even though game 1 is typically not very good for Paulo, he is in control here. He's got so much removal.
He is very much in control.
Oh my goodness.
Because this is the kind of turn where you can tap out for Elspeth Conqueror's deck. Now think about this 5-man enchantment. Paul talked about it at our analyst desk. That might catch an Ember Cleave, the damage is already done there. It might catch a Torbrand where, again, the damage is already done, or an Annex, which you have to kill. You don't expect to play Elspeth Conquers Death on an empty battlefield at 20 in game 1.
You expect to be panicking and playing it out and hoping to catch something from smacking you, but...
Or it'll kill nothing.
Yeah, or nothing. But here we go, Fervent Champion down on the battlefield. Things are not looking very good yet for Seth Manfield. This is the game he needed to win against Paulo Vitor, because after sideboards, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to get the upper hand.
Fervent Champion knocks Teferi down to 2. Teferi's still got a long way to go. Now there's a copy of Annex. Now Paulo, of course, knows about that. And you take a look at Paulo's hand as Chapter 2 is read there on Elspeth Conquers Death. Paulo's got Shatter the Skies, plural. Banishing Lights, plural, to be able to take care of Annex. This is going to be
real bad.
Very hard for Seth to win.
Oh, yeah. This is looking very, very dicey indeed for Seth Manfield. He's going to lose most of his creatures to 4 pieces of removal in Paulo's hand. He's got nothing to come back from the graveyard at the moment, which, it's not the end of the world with Elspeth Conquers Death. It is obviously nice to get back a Planeswalker or a creature. But, yeah, for the most part, his removal doing what it needs to do, keeping control of the battlefield, and as you say, dictating the terms of engagement.
anytime an Azorius Control player gets to pick and choose, and now look at the way the Paulo's playing this turn. Well, maybe I Banishing Light, maybe I don't. Maybe I Shadow this guy. Maybe I don't. You know, it's all that. Whenever you're playing Azorius Control deck, and on the other side, as mono red, you're just going, oh, boy, I hope this thing lives. I hope you don't kill this thing, because I really need this thing. You know you're not winning.
No, that's a position you don't want to be in. As soon as you're going, oh, please don't kill it, please don't kill it, please don't kill it. You know, you've kind of already lost. Which is unfortunate.
Another copy of NX, again, it's a card that you like in the matchup a lot, but you want to go 1-drop, 2-drop, Onyx. Dare you to Shatter the Sky. It doesn't matter that you Shatter the Sky.
And then follow that up with Embercleave.
Yes, but as an individual threat on its own, it is much too slow. And now Seth is still continuing to play the sub-game of knocking Teferi down to 2, which means that Paulo is still at a clean and crisp 20 life.
Oh man, this feels bad for Seth. He did not have a good starting hand. He needed to do the 1-2-3 punch, Embercleave, you're dead. But that's just not how it's shaped up here for him.
You're not going to get any emotion on Paulo's face. You're not going to see him crack a smile until the match is over. He still gets nervous at tournaments like these because he wants to add this spectacular result to his resume. But if I were to kind of dive into his head right now like Professor X, he'd be going, I can't believe this game is going this well for me. I'm at 20 on turn 6. This is so awesome.
Yeah. It's like, this is fine. This is very fine.
This is absolutely
There's no fire around me.
No.
Absolutely fine. Oh goodness. So yeah, we have a battlefield, but this little fervent champion, as much as he tries, is not getting anything done here against Teferi. Banishing Light can take care of the second copy of Annex, and that's what we're going to see now. Don't think he'll go towards Shadow the Sky.
I don't think
just answer it cleanly.
I don't think there's a reason to go towards Shatter the Sky just yet. Now, what I will mention here as this game continues to unfold is, though Seth is in a world of trouble, he is not out of this game yet. It would be a remarkable comeback to be sure.
Yeah.
But you take a look at Paulo's hand, Shatter the Sky is plural and nothing else going on. Had there been a Castle Ardenvale or a Castle Vantress to maybe find a way to kind of close out this game a little bit simpler or draw some cards, then I'd be feeling like Seth, this game is over. But as it stands, even though it's not the best copy of Light Up the Stage, we're not done here just yet, but it is an uphill climb here for Manfield.
It sure is. But now, Paulo has 2 board clears at his disposal. Is he at a risk of running out of gas and Manfield taking over? Or do you think it's
entirely possible. Now, one thing Seth is doing with this Teferi attack with Fervent Champion, he's keeping it at 2, and the reason for that is because he doesn't want Teferi to maybe bounce Banishing Light, draw a card, re-Banishing Light the thing that comes back. And he just doesn't. He wants to make it so that Paulo is drawing just 1 card per turn.
Yeah.
Thirst for Meaning will certainly change the situation, the dynamic of this game.
Oh yeah.
That's a big draw from Paulo.
Very much so. Let's see what's on the top 3 cards of the library.
Now the question is, does he want to do it right now?
Yeah.
Because he may want to wait. He doesn't have an enchantment to discard yet, but draw 3, discard 2 is fine, and finding a copy of Omen of the Sea means that he can discard just 1 card. Though, I will note that Dovin's Veto isn't really at its best in this matchup, so there may be some interest in discarding that plus a Shatter of the Sky and or an Absorb. So just a little something to think about here, which is why Paulo hasn't made his decision just yet.
He hasn't activated Teferi yet, correct?
That is correct. Still on 2.
Yeah. So he
we're going to see it go to 3.
Yeah. So we'll get that up. He can Shatter the Sky on Seth Manfield's turn if he wants to. Otherwise, just hold up the mana. Let's just counter anything that gets played. Embercleave is sitting in hand there for Seth Manfield, just getting ready to go. But I don't think we're going to see it in this match, honestly.
This is a tough spot here for Paulo because he wants all 5 of these cards.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to actually discard one of these. Omen of the Sea is a card that can, as I mentioned, the one thing he was missing is just the ability to find more important cards. Omen of the Sea does that beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
Enters the battlefield, scry 2, draw a card, sack it, scry 2 again. So it'll actually bridge the gap to find what he's looking for. So that's why the discard here is so difficult, is because Omen of the Sea is actually a really good card in this spot.
So if he keeps that, then chances are we'll see a Shadow of the Sky and a Veto, like you said?
I mean, there's potential for that. Again, I defer to whatever Paulo's going to do. I've learned over the course of this weekend and others that instead of guessing what he's going to do, I'm just going to kind of watch just like everybody else at home is. That's why he's so great.
Oh, yeah. Another Embercleave off the top here for Seth Manfield. Not what he was looking for, I don't think. He has the opportunity, possibly, to try and kill Teferi, get him off the battlefield, but we do have a Shadow of the Sky at the ready, able to be cast on his turn thanks to Teferi.
Now, I do want to note one thing here because it looks like Seth is going to start up with Light Up the Stage. So let's take a look at these cards first before I make my point. Though I suppose Paulo could counter this card with Dovin's Veto and actually turn that card on. So I'll interject here very quickly. Paulo is smart enough to know that Seth has at least 1 copy of Embercleave in his hand. What card would a red deck have in their hand that they can't play? that they haven't played over the course of the game. Any creatures would have been cast.
Yep.
Bone Crusher Giant would have stomped and been played by now.
Yep.
So Paulo can deduce that, well, what's going on in Seth's hand? It's at least one Embercleave. Do I think it's two of them? Maybe. Maybe. Because if he's floating out that badly and those 3 cards are in lands, I'm going to win the game anyway. Doesn't actually matter. So let me try to figure out what those cards are. He'll deduce at least one Embercleave. Maybe he'll figure out that there are 2 in hand.
So Seth Manfield just deciding what he wants to run out here. He knows that there's 4 mana open. Remember back in Ixalan days, it was always like, am I going to get my settle wreckaged? My wreckage settled.
It is nice that you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Well, you know, it's a fairy down now, and 4 mana open, Shadow of the Sky is almost as bad.
Yeah.
At least you get to keep your creatures, though.
Another little minor thing I'm going to mention here, too, is Teferi is on 3, so we can, of course, play at instant speed with Shatter of the Sky.
Yep.
Is that with the 2 Banishing Lights on the battlefield that have taken care of annexes, there's 1 on the battlefield, and there's been 1 revealed to light up the stage. So if you're Paulo, you know, okay, that's where all 4 annexes are at. So I don't have to concern myself with any more after the 1 from light up the stage and the 1 that's on the battlefield.
All right, so getting in for some damage here, potentially. Annex going straight for Teferi, and the 2 Fervent Champions buffing each other up. Shadow of the Sky is available to Paulo if he wants to get rid of this battlefield right now, but that would result in 4 creatures coming back from Annex.
Now, it is good news here for Paulo that he does have multiple copies of Shatter of the Sky,
yeah.
so he can kind of clean some things up. I will note that with Shatter of the Sky right now, if you are to cast it, Seth would actually draw a card because he does have a creature that's 4 more power in the Annex, so you're not in love with that if you are Paulo. But past that, I think I would be surprised, I guess I would say, if Paulo weren't to cast Shatter of the Sky during the attack step. He could do it on the end step. Of course, you know, take the damage and then end of turn Shadow of the Sky, untap and do your thing. But, you know, you also kind of want to keep that Teferi for Paulo, I think.
He's been doing good for him so far.
So he, the member of Team Tempo Storm, he's going to continue to think it through quite a bit, but ultimately it looks like he's going to play the 4 mana sweeper.
Let's get these creatures off the battlefield. Unfortunately for Paulo, they get replaced, but lucky for him, he's got another copy of Shadow of the Sky, so he can get rid of the follow-up creatures here. Now, do you think Seth is feeling safe? He's like, okay, let's just run out another one.
No, I mean, do I think he's going to cast the Annex? Sure. I mean, the opponent's tapped out, and you might as well play it. How do I think that Seth feels about this game? Not great. Paulo's at 20. We're on turn 12. You know, I don't think he's feeling great about this game. It continues to be an uphill climb.
Oh, insult to injury. Hello, another Shadow of the Sky.
Another copy of Shadow of the Sky is very, very nice here. You would think, you know, the second and the third copy, how good are they in matchups like this? Well, Annex makes it so that you actually probably want to draw 2 in game 1 more often than not. So drawing the third one's actually not all that bad.
Now, if Paulo wanted to, he could Shadow the Sky, or he could bounce Annex. I don't know if he'd want to kill Teferi, though.
So
he could bounce it, Shadow the Sky, and then absorb the follow-up.
So what I think Paulo's considering right now is if I bounce my Banishing Light, I give you an Annex back. Legendary rule, you lose 1. So it's effectively a removal spell. Then I can Banishing Light. Then I can Banishing Light the one that is left over. And while doing all of this, I get to draw a card. So hey, have your Annex
but doesn't
back.
this die? It gives him creatures. Oh, but then he
That
can
doesn't matter because you Shatter the Sky, so that doesn't matter at all. So you effectively killed both copies of Annex. One you've Legendary ruled, and now you Shatter the Sky away the rest of the battlefield, leaving Seth with just 1 Satyr.
Oh, poor little guys. They did nothing wrong.
Did I mention Paulo's at 20?
Yep.
Did I mention that?
I mean, nothing has really happened here.
Okay.
All the attacks have been going into Teferi, so he's been a very, very good distraction for Paulo indeed. And rightly so, you know, you want to keep Teferi in check. You'd like to get him off the battlefield if you could, but just Seth hasn't found anything to go with here. Embercleave is going to get Dovin's Veto. This little Satyr's not picking up any big old swords. So things are not looking good. Hey, we took a point of damage.
Seth's in the lead.
Yeah. Really? No. Another Dovin's Veto off the top there. There's a Banishing Light, a Shadow of the Sky, and an Absorb. So, I mean, Paulo is just, he is looking real good right now.
Paulo's looking fantastic. Right now he can play Shadow of the Sky. Again, smart enough player to know that what would my opponent have in their hand that they didn't play that turn?
Yeah.
Embercleave or a land. Seth will draw a card, it's a Bone Crusher Giant. He can fire off Stomp plus Bone Crusher in the same turn. That gives him a threat on the battlefield. And you do see that Paulo has enough mana to absorb or veto this, so Bone Crusher Giant, kindly leave. Paulo has been a huge favorite over the course of this game, given how the hands are broken, and he continues to push the advantage. And Thirst for Meaning's a beautiful draw right now.
Speaking of advantage, here comes some more card advantage for Paulo. What does he find off the top? That's a Birth of Meletus. That is a Castle Ardenvale too, so he can now keep generating little creatures, run out this game, finish it out. you kind of think it's inevitable at this point now that Paulo is going to win this.
Well, he's gotten to dictate the terms of engagement the entire time. Here's a robber of the rich. We're almost certainly going to see him absorb on this. Again, Paulo is smart enough to know that that last card in hand for Seth. If I ask Paulo right now, again, Professor X style, if I ask him, what do you think the card is in Seth's hand? I think he would say Embercleave.
Yeah.
I don't even think he would say a land. It's just like, it doesn't make sense that he's not playing that last card.
Yeah.
What could that last card be? Embercleave is doing nothing this game.
Not at all. So now it's just a matter of time. Paulo just needs to find something. A mount on the top of the library isn't going to do it for Seth. He's going to hang on here, though, because this is, of course, the World Championship. Don't forget that. There's a lot to play for here.
Seth will continue to play the game, but this game has gone according to plan here for Paulo. He's going to steal game 1. It gets horrible for Seth in game 2. Again, we're going to get to that sideboard in just well, I want to say in just a minute. It's going to probably be a few minutes.
This is Azorius Control.
Castle Ardenvale takes a little while to get the job done, but this is exactly how Paulo wanted to be with his deck. He could play a ton of copies of Dream Trawler. He chose not to. He said, I can win the mirror with Castle Ardenvale, and it's one of the most important cards in the mirror. And in matchups like this, as long as you kind of take care of everything, it doesn't matter how you win A-Lane. And this time it's going to be a 1-1, then 2 1-1s. Or we can accelerate it, which means we can
accelerate.
You and I can get the break sooner. Now that Dream Trawler's here.
Yeah, we get to go and hang out in the green room and watch the rest of the Magic, because, you know, we're the biggest Magic fans of them all.
That's right. I love hearing Marshall and Kibler talk.
Yeah. But Fervent Champion hits the battlefield. He's going to take care of Teferi. No, he's not, because there's, of course, a Castle Ardenvale 1-1 coming to fight. So Teferi gets to hang out a little bit longer. But yeah, Dream Trawler, the one of in Paulo's deck, is going to clear this game up easy peasy.
Yeah, we're going to see Paulo plus the Teferi almost certainly drop the Dream Trawler. I think he's, let me check the mana here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll see an attack first. He doesn't have the ability to play Dream Trawler plus have Absorb and or Veto up.
Yep.
Also, Dream Trawler is more or less impossible to kill, so there's nothing to fear. Also, Seth's deck doesn't have removal, so, you know, Dream Trawler's here.
Seth's in big trouble. Even a Torbind off the top of the library isn't going to help him in this situation, so it's just a matter of time now before Seth hits the escape concede, I think.
Yep. Looks
Absorb is going to get rid of Torbrand.
So what I like here is Paulo's considering Absorb, and the reason I like him considering is because he doesn't actually have to cast it.
No, he can
Banishing Light it or something like that, or ignore it completely. This is really, really, really bad news for Mono Red and Seth Manfield fans. He had to win that game. He had to. He has such an advantage in game 1 in this matchup. And now we go to the sideboards. Paulo's got access to Cerulean Drake. He's got access to 4 copies of Aether Gust. 2
Glass Caskets.
He's got a Glass Casket, 2 copies of Archon of Sun's Grace. He's got so many cards to bring in. And those expensive answers that lined up well in game 1 are still going to come out of the deck. So Elspeth Conquers Death, out of here. Narset, out of here. Dovin's Veto, great in the mirror, great against Reclamation, sucks in this matchup. Out of here.
Saying it like it is, Cedric. I like it.
Well, it's just what the problem here for Seth, and if you ask him right now, Seth has cards to bring in too.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the Berserker, he's got Chandra, Acolyte of Flame, so he's got cards to bring in, but the cards that Paulo is bringing in are better than what Seth is bringing in. So that's why it was so important for Seth to win game 1, probably lose game 2, and then game 3 be on the play, and maybe Paulo mulligans once, and then you do your mono red thing and you steal the game before Paulo can really do anything of consequence. So now Seth has to win 2 games back to back. That's hard.
So if you were to Professor X into Seth's head, what would he be saying right now?
I think he'd be thinking, I'm in a little trouble. I'm in a little trouble.
Maybe not in such tame words. Though.
No, I think he knows he's in a little trouble. But you know what? He is a former world champion after all. He's a Magic Hall of Famer.
Don't count him out.
He can win this match.
He can, and let's see if he does. Temple of Enlightenment, getting things started here for PV. There's a Fervent Champion on Seth Manfield's battlefield. Got a really good looking hand here. This is the hand that he probably would have wished to have in the first game.
Absolutely. This is what he would have preferred to do in that first game. I was a little surprised he kept that hand in game number 1. Now Seth is going to look to get aggressive here. I think he might be thinking of going Rim Rockin', which does make some sense. Just get some creatures in the battlefield, start to pressure your opponent.
Oh yeah, let's do it. You just have to panic at turn 4 when you may get Shattered the Sky.
You may get Shattered, you may get Archon. There's some things that can go pretty poorly for you, but try to put on as much pressure as you can. Seth does also have the benefit of bringing in a powerful Planeswalker in Chandra, which we might see next turn.
Bone Crusher Giant is the draw off the top of the library. Let's get this mountain out, and let's get to swinging. Chandra, Acolyte of Flame is going to generate those little hasty 1/1s. At least, you know, Castle Ardenvale, as good as that is, this is also a pretty good card in this matchup. Hasty little 1/1s, just chipping in for 2 points of damage each turn, even if you board wipe.
Yes,
great.
And that's what makes it great is because you're going to have this Chandra kind of left over. And so if Shatter the Sky does occur, you can still have a permanent on the battlefield and keep doing your thing. So Chandra's a beautiful card for Seth here on turn number 3 of this game. And now if you're Seth, You don't really have to deploy much more to the battlefield to feel comfortable about things.
Yeah, I mean, this little wall does get in the way, but, you know, you're still getting at least 4 points of damage through with the, no, sorry, that's not the fervent. Scorch Spitter is still in hand there, so at least getting those points of damage through.
Yeah, you'll be able to get
And,
3 through. So
yeah.
what's going to happen is Rimrock Knight will be blocked by the 0-4. You'll make 2 elementals, and then your Fervent Champion plus the 2 elementals will come through.
Yeah.
So as we head back to Paulo, you may note that Paulo did play Hallowed Fountain tap, but Paulo's got an interaction spell here for the Chandra in a copy of Ether Gust.
Yeah, so he does have ways to, you know, keep control of this battlefield.
He does.
He can absorb as this, well, actually, no.
He won't be absorbing
He won't be able
turn.
to absorb it, yeah. Not
And he won't be able to absorb on the future turn depending on how Seth plays out his spells.
Yeah.
Seth is smart enough also to know not to play into an absorb, so he'll have to figure out, and this is what the great aggressive players in Magic do, is how to walk the tightrope now.
Yeah.
What card does Seth want to play against and play around? So, as an example, on this turn, as Seth is going to decide what to do with the Gust, is he going to play around Shadow the Sky? If he plays around Shadow the Sky, that means he's not going to deploy more threats. If he doesn't deploy more threats, then Paulo can play Archon of Sun's Grace and say, you lose for not playing more stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Archon of Sun's Grace is just such a difficult card for Mono Red to deal with. Like, sure, their creatures are big enough, but I mean, every single time that you cast an enchantment, of which PvDDR has quite a few, you generate that little 2/2. That's just a great jump blocker, it's 2 extra life, and most of the time it kills something on the red side of the battlefield.
Now this turn's going to be interesting here for Seth for the interaction that I just mentioned. Does he want to deploy more threats, or does he want to hold back? He's going to play another threat here in Bone Crusher Giant.
All the threats.
What this does is this will most likely cause Paulo to play land and Shatter the Sky. Seth's follow-up will most likely be the Chandra that he's going to draw next turn that Paulo knows about. So this is elementary stuff, and so far as these players know this is going to happen because they're on the same wavelength. Seth will also get to draw a card from the Shadow of the Sky because of the Bone Crusher Giant. So top card is a Mountain. Mountain's not a bad draw here because he gets to play Chandra and Scorch Spitter in the same turn.
It's gonna have to hurry up, like you said. Let's get some things down on this battlefield, and let's try and kill Paulo as quick as we can, because things are not going to be as easy to wrap up after this Archon hits the battlefield.
Now after Paulo, you're still feeling pretty good about things. It's turn number 5. You're at 10 life. You just drew another copy of Birth of Meletus. So things are going okay right now. It's not the end of the world. You can play Birth, get yourself a Plains, play it's a Fairy. Or you can leave Absorb. We've got both options available to you. So this is actually still a pretty good turn here for Paulo. I do like that Paulo's keeping up Absorb right now. I will note that, because by leaving up Absorb, it makes it difficult for Seth to play a spell. If Seth doesn't play a spell, you get to play Omen of the Sea.
Oh, yeah. So Chandra is going to get to work generating those little 1/1s, getting in for 3 points of damage here, 4 with the Scorch Spitter's activation.
Now remember, one thing that Paulo does an excellent job of, as does everyone in this tournament, but I think Paulo is exquisite at this, is he's so good at playing multiple turns ahead.
Yeah.
Paulo knows right now that if Seth plays a spell, I'm almost certainly going to absorb it.
Yeah.
So here comes the Absorb. Maybe.
Maybe.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't play it. But what the point I'm going to make about playing turns ahead is that Paulo knows next turn, I get an 0-4.
Yep.
Turn after that, I get to gain 2 life. So right now, I'm at like a theoretical 11 before damage is dealt if I get to make it 2 more turns.
If he draws a land, he can also go Archon into Omen of the Sea, generate another blocker, so...
Now that's the scary part. An Ember Cleave coming down means that Paulo's actually at 6, not as high as he was hoping he'd be. So now he's got to answer that card.
All right. There's a land, though. So we can get Archon of Sun's Grace down. We can get an Omen of the Sea down. We could also Teferi and bounce the Scorch Spitter.
So we've got a lot of different options here, which kind of makes this turn nice here for Paulo.
Yeah.
I think this one's going to be a little bit of a lengthier turn. So let's break down all the situations here. You can play Castle Ardenvale. It's going to enter the battlefield untapped because there's a Plains. Okay, that's probably going to be step 1. That's easy enough. Do you want to go to Archon of Sun's Grace and then play Omen of the Sea at instant speed to make a 2/2? Maybe. Do you just want to play Elspeth Conquers Death? If you do you want to kill Embercleave? Do you want to kill Chandra? Do you want to play Teferi, bounce something, draw a card, reassess after your draw step, and still have the ability to play Omen of the Sea? So those are the decision trees that Paulo is going down right now. He's got a lot of options on what is almost certainly the most crucial turn of his tournament thus far.
He seems to be liking this Archon of Sun's Grace, getting another blocker down on the battlefield, generating some blockers against any angry little friends, and keeping the Omen of the Sea, flashing that in. It's going to be more of a surprise here for Seth.
Now, I will say this, Seth, obviously an unbelievable Magic player. He knows that this is an option here for Paulo, which is Omen of the Sea can come down at instant speed. That'll make you a 2/2. It'll have lifelink alongside your 3/4 that has lifelink. Can I afford to play around that interaction? Paulo, you took some time thinking about your turn, which means you probably had multiple decisions to make. But here I come with my Scorch Spitter, trigger, deal you a damage. Let's see how this goes.
Scorch Spitter presenting 4 points of damage. He can kill the Archon of Sun's Grace. They would trade.
It's also worth noting that Seth, the attack that he's making right now, what he's doing, it feels like to me, is he's bluffing a copy of Boulder Rush.
Ah, okay.
Because if it's a Boulder Rush, you get that little pump, and it's a first strike damage. So we'll see how Paulo elects to block. It looks like he's just going to go solo 0-4. Archon of Sun's Grace will not work itself into the block at all. You saw Paulo give a little bit of a reaffirming head nod there, saying, okay, that wasn't too bad for me. Nothing too bad happened that turn. So that's super good for Paulo if you're rooting for Azorius Control. Seth taking a look at his graveyard, seeing if Chandra can get anything cool going on here.
Just loyalty counter, not wanting to run in any of the 1/1s into the Archon and giving 3 life back to Paulo.
Yeah,
We're just going to see the Scorch Spitter run out here.
And this is the perfect turn here for Paulo. And again, if you're rooting for Azorius Control, because what this means is a couple things. One, Paulo gets to play Omen of the Sea. He has no fear of dying because Seth's not playing any burn. So he gets to make another 2/2, scry 2, take a look at these cards. He's also going to go from 5 to 7 on his turn from the Birth of Meletus Chapter 3. And that doesn't even start to work in Ailey, the fact that he's going to get to do some attacking with his lifelinkers.
Oh, yeah.
Paulo's starting to run away with it, and Cerulean Drake, I think, just made it a whole lot easier.
Oh, yeah. Elspeth Conquers Death, too, able to take care of Embercleave. Both creatures going in towards Chandra, Acolyte of Flame, going to get rid of this Planeswalker, get that off the battlefield. And now let's see what the follow-up is. It's going to be Teferi Time Rever, it looks like. Going to bounce something.
Yeah, has the opportunity to bounce something. Might be going towards Embercleave, and I like that because now you can manage that card.
Very much so. Cerulean Drake is a very good blocker. It doesn't do much against the trample aspect, but it won't die against the red creatures. Light up the stage is the draw there, so we can play that for 1 for Seth Manfield. No counters up. For Paulo, no land available either. So Scorch Spitter will take care of Teferi. Just from the little ping.
Don't forget now, too, that because Teferi was on the battlefield, you couldn't play Embercleave mid-combat. Now that it's off the battlefield, Seth can Embercleave mid-combat. So Scorch Spitter does a nice job of taking care of Teferi and turning back on the Embercleave.
Yep.
But what Paulo knows is this, is he continues to play multiple turns ahead. He knows that Seth can't kill him this turn. There's no combination of cards that can do that, which means he's going to get the opportunity to untap. He'll get to draw. He'll get to attack again with Archon and the Pegasus and gain more life. And what that means is that Paulo falls down to 10. And let's make it 9 now after the tramples. There's no way for Paulo to lose this game. It's not going to happen. Light at the stage, as good as that card is, revealing Bone Crusher and Castle, those aren't going to be enough.
It's not going to help him here. I mean, he's got 3 enchantments in hand. That's 3 extra ponies off of the Archon of Sun's Grace. Elspeth Conquers Death can take care of the Embercleave. You're just left with Scorch Spitters. As cute and as adorable as they are, they're not going to get the job done here for Seth.
Those cards do not pale in comparison to Archon, to Cerulean Drake, to Omen of the Sea, to Elspeth Conquers Death. This is an instance where this Azorius Control deck is really starting to flex its muscles. The power level of Azorius Control is much higher than Mono Red. Where Mono Red gets its advantage is that it kills you before Azorius Control can do its thing. Unfortunately for Seth, he wasn't able to do that in the first game, and he's certainly not doing it in this one.
Yeah, unfortunate for Seth that he didn't manage to win the first matchup. That was his game. He had to win it to be on the play in game 3, but it looks like Paulo is going to clean this up with a 2-0. Scorch Spitters opposed to an army of flying lifelinkers. Things are not looking good.
Those creatures back on defense to kind of highlight how difficult this is. It's a 2/2 life-linking flyer and a protection from red creature.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a little ting and a ting here from Scorch Spitters.
Ting.
Cerulean Drake is, well, I'd be shocked if it does. Well, I guess I'll say this. Cerulean Drake actually... Let's see if it does block because of Bone Crusher Giant's text on preventing damage. So there's your trade. Paulo thought about that for a minute. Now here's Bone Crusher Giant post-combat. But it's still a game that Paulo is very far ahead in as he's going to start the turn with an Omen of the Sea.
Generating another Pegasus. We get to scry and draw. That's another Teferi, so we can get that back. We can bounce something else off the battlefield. We can bounce the Omen of the Sea if we want to. Could bounce Elspeth Conquers Death.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a lot of fun with Teferi right now. It's like spinning the basketball on your finger when you're pretty far ahead.
It's so nice to have so many options. It's much better than the alternate, I will say.
Looks like Paulo's going to pump up the Teferi up to 5 counters, continue to attack her. He's going to go from 11 to 16. I mean, this is just this is pretty clinical here from Damo da Rosa, which you would expect nothing less from someone who's accomplished as much as he has. Again, the one thing that eludes him thus far in his career and why he's nervous at this tournament is he's never been world champion before. But if the matchups keep breaking this way and he continues to play at this level, we may have a good
game there from Seth Manfield.
We might find our champion.
Is picking up a very, very clean 2-0 against Seth Manfield. What an absolutely stellar performance from him. His deck doing everything that it wants to do and just, taking that first game away from Seth. That is the one that Seth had to win. But Seth is not out of it yet. He is still in the running for this World Championship, but Paulo just made his life a whole lot easier.
Yes, he did. So now Paulo is on to the upper finals. I know Paulo said that he was nervous coming in, which I think is always so funny for someone who's accomplished so much to be nervous, but he still wants to get those wins, and he is one step closer. Going to give Becca that high five. I know we're going to be heading that way in just a moment, but really, really quickly, PV, with a beautifully played game, everything kind of broke his way in game number 1. I think if Seth could revisit that game 1, I think he sends that opening hand back because it was just a little too slow off the ground. But there in game 2, Ayla, you saw just how bad it gets.
Yeah.
Gust,
Post-board,
Teferi, Shatter the Sky, Archon, on and on and on and on. It's just too much for Seth over.
This is why so many mono red players like playing best of 1, because it's like,
yes.
I killed you.
That's
Let's
true.
move on.
That's true.
Speaking of moving on, let's go to Seth Manfield, who is with Becca. Oh, no, not Seth Manfield. Paulo, who is with Becca right now.
Thanks, Ailey. That's right. I'm with Paulo, Vitor, Damo da Rosa into the top 4 and only had to play a single match today. Are you feeling quite relaxed?
Oh yeah, I'm feeling pretty great. You know, nothing to do today, but at least I know who I'm playing tomorrow, so can prepare for that a little bit too.
Yes, you're playing Marcio Carvalho on Jeskai Fires. You didn't think you'd see Jeskai Fires, but it doesn't. What do you think of the matchup there?
I think it's kind of even. I played Marcio in the Swiss, or the first stage, and I lost, but there were 3 really close games. So I think it depends on how he draws mostly, because his cards are either very good or very bad versus me. Especially game 1, some cards do absolutely nothing, and some cards are incredible, like Teferi and Deafening Clarion. Like the difference is huge. So I think it can go either way.
Now, speaking of game 1s, it seems like your main deck was more prepared for maybe an Azorius Mirror and less for the mono red. Is that right? And what happens after sideboard against a mono red deck?
Yeah, the thing for deck was that we decided we wanted to beat the Mirror and Reclamation game 1. And because we have so many cards that people normally put in their sideboards, like Dovin's Veto, Mystical Dispute, we have those in the main, that leaves a lot of room for dedicated cards against mono red, like, you know, the 4 Aether Gusts, which are also good versus other things, but the 2 Drakes, the Cerulean Drake. So we thought we were making our match, our game 1 versus mono red a little bit worse, but I think that's bad for all versions. And then in return, we were getting a much, much better game 2 and 3. So I think overall the match is favored, but I was expecting to lose game 1 and win the other 2.
All right, now we've talked before about you're no stranger to titles, but World Champion is not one that's yet on your resume. And you've been around a while, but you have proven here by being in the top 4 that you are, of course, very much still relevant. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's the title that means the most, right? I think for people who don't play Magic, you say, I'm the world champion. Everyone understands what it is immediately. It's not like Player of the Year or Pro Tour winner. We play Magic, we know those are very hard too. You know, sometimes harder or equally as hard. But if I'm gonna tell my uncle or someone I just met, hey, I'm the world champion, that means a lot, right? And I don't have that title and I really want it.
Well, of course, I'm rooting for you so I can get my card sleeve. So thank you very much for making it to the top 4. Congratulations, Paulo.
Thank you, thank you. I'll get you that trophy, Pat.
All right, do it for me. Do it for my trophy pet. Thanks so much, Paulo. Good luck tomorrow. Really, really excited for you. Let's head on back to Alias and Cedric in the booth.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who want their trophy pet.
I think so, yes. I think as far as finding your champion is concerned, I think a lot of people are rooting for Paulo here.
Oh, yeah.
And after winning that matchup against Seth Manfield, who's, again, no easy out.
No, not
Got to
at
be
all.
feeling really, really good for the Azorius Control player, the only one left here this weekend in Hawaii.
Do you think the rest of the players are feeling good about the fact that there's only one more control deck left?
Well, it depends on how they feel about playing against Azorius Control, of course, but you have to think that you're playing against Azorius Control that is metagamed heavily for this specific metagame. Paulo and Andre more or less nailed it, and I don't know if you guys knew this, but Paulo is really good at playing Magic, so I wouldn't be feeling great if I was the rest of the competition.
Well, there's still plenty of Magic to be played when we come back, and when that happens, it'll be Carvalho versus Loveman. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere. More Magic after this.
Hall of Famer and your 2015 World Champion, Seth Manfield.
You know, one of the best players in the whole MPL.
So I first started playing Magic back when I was 8 years old. It was recess time on the blacktop at school. Strategy games kind of run in my family also, so it's just kind of how my mind works. I've been playing as a professional Magic player for a while now. My goal was to stay in the MPL, but I overachieved in a way, right? Because I also have now made it to the World Championships, which I won Worlds back in 2015, but this is a completely different World Championship. It doesn't mean that I'm like, okay, I've won Worlds already, so I can just kind of sit back and be happy with what I've already done. No, I'm always looking for more. This World Championship is absurd. I can't even think about what I'm playing for right now. You at home, you are the ones that have to think about all the stakes on the line. I'm going to be playing my best Magic. My name is Seth, and I will be the next world champion.
Paulo, Vitor, Damo da Rosa, this is his 15th top.
Yeah, it's just outrageous. And
It
Paulo,
really is. Paulo, Vitor, Damo da Rosa wins. I mean, how many times have I said that in my career? There's going to be screen burn-in from top 8s and all the things that he's had.
I've been playing Magic for, I think, 23 years. My first professional tournament was 2003. It was Worlds in Berlin. And it was something that happened very naturally. I qualified to the tournament. I'm like, oh, that's fun. I'll go. And then I went. I did well. I qualified again. So it happened very organically with me. I just climbed the ladder, you know, one step at a time until I got here. I think being the greatest of all time is something that, it's a debate that will never settle because the ages were so different. Like, I think what Kai did is never going to be matched. Kai won 7 Pro Tours. Like, I've won 2. I can't imagine how much longer I would have to play to win 5 more. So it's not really something I care about. I want to be good. I want to be the best that I can be. And I like that I'm in discussion for one of the best of all time. As long as some people consider me very good, I think I'm happy with that. Being one of the 16 players heading to the World Championship means a lot to me. A chance to compete for that world title. It is my one goal left in Magic, and it gives me the chance to prove that I'm still good after all this time. Meu nome é Paulo Vitor e eu vou ser o próximo campeão mundial.
Welcome back to World Championship 26, powered by Alienware. I'm Ailey, this is Cedric, and we're going to check out the second of the upper semifinals between Marcio Carvalho and Eli Loveman. Now, both players want the rest of the day off. They want to get into this top 8.
It wouldn't be so bad.
No, not bad at all. You can go hang out on the beach, drink some Mai Tais, whatever floats your boat. So let's jump into this match and see who of those two players.
That way now and watch this game unfold.
Here we
There's
go.
that long hair of Eli Loveman.
There's Black Shirt Man. Let's get going, friends. This is Eli Loveman versus Marcio Carvalho, arguably one of the best players in the world at the moment. Eli Loveman looking to take him down. Embercleave, number 2, going back to the bottom of the library. Fervent Champion, Scorchbitter, Embercleave in hand here for new player 1. I do like his arena name.
Yeah, that I do as well. You're not going to trick me, though, Eli. I know you're not a new player at all. Had the pleasure of playing against him at Grand Prix Memphis last year. He'd made the top 8 of that tournament, and the top 8 of that tournament qualified him for the Pro Tour, excuse me, the Mythic Championship that he won. So I am just a footnote in his career.
Cool.
He bulldozed me and many others on his way to winning a Mythic Championship. Looking to bulldoze Marcio Carvalho right now with mono red.
That's a pretty cool story. Justice Strike is going to get rid of the poor little Scorchbitter, so no extra point of damage there. Fervent Champion just getting in for 1, taking him down to 17. Temple of Triumph will be the play here for Marcio. Finding something hopefully good at the top of the library. It's going to the top at it is another Plains. The Crone War. Now this card is super cool.
This is a very
We
cool...
saw it in act yesterday.
And he used it to great effect, I believe, against Gabriel Nassif, playing in this matchup, because Nassif is also playing the Jeskai Fires deck. So it's a weird looking card. If it does join the battlefield, we'll of course break it down in all the chapters of that particular card. But right now, what I can tell you is that Loveman's in some real trouble here, because he has expensive cards. He has not gotten to the battlefield in a meaningful way this game. And Marcio isn't even underneath that much pressure, so he chose to not even cast the copy of Aether Gust that's in his hand, which is bad news for Eli Loveman.
Oh yeah. What is also bad news is Fires of Invention, the card that this deck is built around. So you're going to see some very powerful plays if the draws play nicely here for Marcio. First things first, Fervent Champion getting in for 2 points of damage off of the Castle Embereth activation.
I got bad news for Loveman fans, folks, because
Oh,
here
boy.
comes Kenrith, which is a very, very hard card for Mono Red to beat.
Hey,
Next
Kenny.
up is Bone Crusher Giant, the ability to give these creatures haste. Now he may cast Stomp, of course, and
Yep.
Stomp the Fervent Champion. That's of course an option here for Marcio, but the problem here is that Kenrith is so hard for Red to beat, and you can see in Loveman's hand there is not a lot going on there.
Not at all. So Bone Crusher Giant does join the fray with Kenrith, the Return King. He's going to give all the creatures haste and swing in for 9 points of damage. Ouch. So things looking pretty good here for Marcio. Eli has to draw something meaningful. It is a Runaway Steamkin off the top, but he's going for the Akroan War. Let's get to thieving.
Now remember, because Fires is on the battlefield, can't interact at all here from Marcio with regards to the cards in his hand, and I'm mostly talking about Aether Gust here. Now the one thing he can do, though, is activate
some life.
Kenrith with the mana available. So gain a little bit of life, lose control of the Kenrith, but I think we might see Gust on that Akroan War to get access to the Kenrith again here in just a little bit.
That's likely what we'll see happen. Sphinx of Foresight. That's a very, very good card indeed. Can he kill?
Kill, I don't think so. So
Yet.
he has the ability to Gust the Akroan War,
Yeah.
which would give him his Kenrith back.
Yeah, give
Place
to...
Sphinx of Foresight, give haste to both. Now the Kenrith should, as long as I've got this correct, the Kenrith should come back tapped because it's tapped now.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. So Aether Gust is going to get rid of the Akroan War. As you mentioned, it's going to stay on top. Eli is hedging his bets with that card, hoping that it pays off for him. Sphinx of Foresight down on the battlefield. Kenrith giving the team haste. 8 points of damage coming through. Eli is down to 3 and hovering around that concession button. Giving up the good game. That's going to do it, I believe. Marcio Carvalho, good game in response. Congratulations to Marcio. He progresses through to the upper finals, but Eli Loveman is not out of it just yet.
But a huge win there for Marcio. Now, what's so interesting about this tournament and the structure of this tournament is that we haven't really seen Marcio all that much this tournament.